Well, welcome to our session on smart glasses, opportunities, challenges, and barriers to widespread adoption. Gartner's forecast analysis shows that by 2020, there's an opportunity for 10 million workers to be wearing smart glasses. But reaching that potential depends on developing a solutions ecosystem. I'm Angela McIntyre. I'm the lead analyst for wearables at Gartner, and I advise companies and executives on how to use smart glasses to make their organizations more effective. We're fortunate today to have 5 panelists with us who are experts in smart glasses adoptions. And gentlemen, we can just go down the line and have you introduce yourselves. And as you do, please let us know what your role is regarding smart glasses solutions.
Hi, I'm Soulaiman Itani. I'm the founder and CTO of Atheer. And my role personally is to try to mess with everything. And at Atheer, we're building, we have 2 products. One is the glasses. We have an industrial focused smart glasses that allows you to have a virtual experience, an AR experience in front of you that you can interact with either by touch, by voice, by motion. But on top of that, which is very relevant here, we have a solution that we call Air Suite. It's for collaboration amongst team members who might have different AR hardware or even tablets and smartphones, and how can you make them all work together to achieve enough efficiency and ROI to get the traction for AR.
Hello, my name is Patrick O'Shaughnessy. I'm the founder and the chief developer at Patched Reality, and also the CTO of augmentedreality.org that puts on this event. In my experience with smart glasses is we develop custom software solutions for augmented reality for our customers, and we've worked with many of the different smart glass platforms like Glass and Vuzix and all the other players. More recently, HoloLens, although it kind of bridges the gap between smart glass and augmented reality device. And so, yeah, that's what we do.
I'm Ron Padzensky. I'm the author of the Augmera blog. I also authored the Augmented Reality Glasses Buyer's Guide, which you can find at arglassesbuyersguide.com. And that is an interactive knowledge base of over 40 different augmented reality glasses. And it allows you to understand the various technologies that go into augmented reality glasses, and then interact with them to understand which products contain which technologies.
I'm Rudi Schubert. I'm with the IEEE Standards Association. I always have to ask the question, how many people here are IEEE members? All right, we got a few. That's good. For those of you not so familiar with IEEE standards, we're probably best known for our developing the 802 Wi-Fi standards, the Ethernet standards, over 1,000 different standards. My job at IEEE is a little bit different in that I work on emerging technology issues, really incubating the next generation of standards and identifying ways that standards can help accelerate emerging technologies and get them more, get products out there and in more widespread use. We have a program called Industry Connections, and within our Industry Connections program, which is the emerging tech one of the groups we have is a smart glasses interest group, looking at where the opportunities are for smart glasses in terms of future standards. Both Ron and Peter are both part of that. We're always happy to have more people get involved, but really with a long-term goal of accelerating the adoption of smart glasses, and wherever standards can help, we'd like to be the ones to facilitate that as well.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Peter Verstraeten. I'm founder and CEO of Proceedix. And Proceedix is a cloud platform where business people easily build the workflow for their procedures or work instructions, while the execution of it is done by people using wearable devices or mobile technology. And on wearable devices, we work with Google Glass.
Well, thank you so much. So I'll be asking questions, and a specific person, and ask that person to take the lead on answering, but then please feel free to join in and have a discussion. So Peter, may I start with you? Can you give us examples of verticals that are starting to adopt smart glasses, and what use cases are gaining traction?
Yeah. So the first and the most common one that we encounter is in logistics, and it's not a coincidence. Picking and packing, you're using your hands, so hands-free is an issue. So it's logical that that there is a demand for smart glasses to help you or to instruct you what to pick and what to pack. We have been doing studies over in Europe where we benchmark voice picking, traditional voice picking technology with smart eyewear-based picking technology. And very short conclusion on that, the smart glass-based picking is approximately as efficient or as fast as the voice-based picking technology, but it's better in terms of quality error reduction, and in terms of costs, it's appeared to be cheaper. So it might be the first disruptive thing of smart eyewear in the future, whenever these devices become mature, might be to simply replace voice picking technology by smart eyewear-based picking, which is both voice and visual in the end. Then the second thing is in maintenance, where obviously there is two things. There is remote support of experts, because experts are scarce, expensive resources that you want to maximize, so keep them in a control room and leverage multiple field engineers by one expert. That's the whole idea behind it. You avoid the travel costs for the expert. And then instructions for the one that needs to perform the maintenance is again the logical, I would say, use case. For the same reason as in logistics, hands-free when you're doing repair is as important as it is in pick, pack, and ship. Then manufacturing, similar to the maintenance, also instruction support, but in manufacturing you get an additional thing, it's quality control. There I would say that maybe a majority is still happy to do quality control on tablets and on phones, but you get cases where if you're diving into a machine or diving into some material that you're handling, then hands-free again is I would say an advantage. All of these is for smart glasses with rear view mirror, what we call, so a little head-mounted display in the corner of your eye. There are on real augmented reality, we see two use cases, general use cases, where it's picking up its sales to give future users or future consumers or future buyers a first impression. How would this new kitchen look like in my environment? That type of stuff. And then training. Their augmented reality and both virtual reality offer quite some potential, both in maintenance, manufacturing, how to do things, train them before you allow them to enter the manufacturing floor. I think that are the most common use cases.
That's wonderful, quite a few. Others?
Yeah, actually, for us, we look at it. I mean, there are many use cases in common. We use this acronym FAST. It stands for Fix, Assemble, Survey, and Treat. And those are basically the use cases that we found, even across, so people who are doing the fixing are in a way across different industries. They can go from nuclear reactors to airplanes, to even cars, especially usually for the, for military or like heavy machinery. But we found these solutions: fix, assemble, survey, and treat. Of course, treat is there's always a lot of tape around it, right? It takes a while for things to pick up, but the doctors are very excited. We had doctors say that if you go to the hospital in the US, after you go, The third biggest killer is contamination that you get in the hospital, an infection that you catch in the hospital. And so augmented reality allows the doctors to interact with information with less touching physical things, and so it would help with this. So even though it's a slower one, but there's very real interest there, and there is like initial adoption.
Very cool. Yeah. Following on the training, I think even in I guess education is somewhat to the left of training, but I'm seeing some, especially medical training, seems to be a really powerful use case as well.
Maybe one comment there. That's at least feedback that we've got from different parties. A lot of interest in the medical space, but more difficult to find the funds. While in industry, it's fairly straightforward. You prove me the business case, and I'll give you the money.
Yeah, another problem, like you're saying, in the medical case, one challenge in cracking that market is who's going to pay. There are the insurance companies, the hospitals, the providers of the medical devices, the doctors themselves, and the patient themselves. So it's kind of very complicated. We do at least have one very large customer who saw a big enough of an opportunity to invest significant amounts of money. But yeah, you're right. That's definitely a more complicated field than most.
All right, thank you. So Soulaiman, you were giving us examples of use cases. Well, how do smart glasses enable the enterprise IT to maximize their benefits?
Yeah, exactly. So in the end, fundamentally, if we go back to the basics, we're introducing a new way for people to do things. And unless there is a high enough ROI, then people don't want to change what they're doing. They're using something, they're using paper or voice or tablets, and you have to cross that barrier. And looking at AR and where can it give enough of an ROI, we found a very, very core thing. There are two sides of it. One is collaboration. So things that are done by one person are becoming less and less important. Computers can do more of those. Where we have an edge is, like you mentioned, getting experts and getting people to work together, right, on something. So teamwork and aligning people, helping them match the timing. There's somebody on the next floor who's controlling some valves, and only when it's safe can another person go ahead with their tasks. And actually, we've had some customers approach us saying we've had accidents because we cannot make sure that everything is going, that the team is fully coordinated. And that's a very, very big deal with AR, because you have the user's field of view. You can, alerts cannot be ignored because the phone isn't in their pocket or it's not out of sight or something like that. So you can help them coordinate really well. And the other is contextualization. So when I'm looking at an engine, the last person who repaired that engine can have left something like, oh, pay attention, this valve has a fissure or whatever. And that the right information comes in at the right time, versus what they have to do currently. This customer is they need to get the reference number of that engine in that vehicle, or in like the nuclear reactor, and then they need to pull up the information and look through it, sift through it to see if there's anything that's relevant, and that makes their jobs much, much easier. In addition to the reverse side, which is the documentation. So one of our customers, this is a public customer, it's in the insurance field, so it lies under survey. The risk engineers spend almost half of their time inspecting a plant, and then half of the time writing the report, just writing. And of course, everybody hates the writing part. And from their study is that they can reduce the time of writing by 30 to 40% just by while they're walking. If they can take voice notes, if they can say, capture, and then it catches an image and stuff like that, then they have most of the material already set, and they just need to edit it afterwards. So these are the places where the ROI has been so big that companies are interested in investing hundreds to millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in installations this year. And next year it will be much bigger. In a couple of years it will be even much bigger.
Thanks. Any follow-ups on that?
Well, you described the scenario of situational awareness, in the, I think it was a nuclear plant example you were giving. And, I think there's many other places and opportunities for situational awareness. One of those that particularly stands out is in the military. So augmented reality allowing soldiers to see where friendlies are so they can, avoid accidental friendly fire situations, as well as knowing where various resources are that and landmarks and so forth, and be able to operate much more efficiently in the field there.
Yeah, exactly. And this lies in the coordination part, right? Because if you need to leave a marker or some indication for your troops, now it doesn't have to be something visible or physical. It can be all in the augmented world. Yeah. We currently don't have engagements in the military, but but yeah, that's definitely interesting.
Great. So, but Rudi, on the flip side, what are some concerns that enterprise decision makers have about deploying smart glasses?
Yeah, we ran a few workshops over the past year, and I would characterize these as being workshops with, you might call it heavy industry, oil refineries, gas, electric type utilities. I think the interesting thing with those types of industries, they tend to be very conservative very often. They don't always rush to embrace new technologies. I think, to the earlier point, return on investment is always the first thing that comes up. And certainly, those of us here might say, oh, there's a clear return on investment. But what you get back is they need hard numbers. They need proof. They, to be able to sell into a very conservative environment, unless you have very tight facts, that becomes somewhat of a barrier. They would raise issues about integration with legacy systems. We're not going to mess with our current systems. We have a lot of reliability and safety issues on the line, so your products have to fit seamlessly. I can't do anything extra beyond purchasing your products. And of course, there's always the issue of the apps themselves. Which apps really have the value that are going to be able to say, yeah, maybe there may be the return on investment. It has to be something very comprehensive. Two other really interesting points I'll raise, and one was the data itself, the data that's actually being visualized through the AR systems. A comment we got back is, we're not going to go back and take all our paper schematic maps of things, and we're not going to translate that and have somebody put all this time and money into taking that and converting it. We need it to be seamless. We need to have a very low cost of gathering existing information and making that available through smart glasses themselves. And I think the last most interesting takeaway to me, and this is the one that I never hear at any AR conferences or anything, people say, well, what about the unions? What about organized labor? You tell me that you're going to put out these smart glasses and they're going to make people more efficient. First thing that goes off in the union's mind is, that's going to cost me jobs. I don't want to integrate this. Who's going to educate my union employees? And it was actually with the electric utility group we talked to, it became a very heated debate. And it's something you don't necessarily, we're thinking about technology, we're thinking about efficiencies. You forget this whole organized labor aspect. And very often when you get to manufacturing and heavy industry, they're the ones that we're trying to push the smart glasses to. And so you have to overcome that, somewhat emotional job security barrier in terms of convincing people that this is a better way to work.
Yeah, if I may follow on, you mentioned data formats, and that is a huge, sometimes a very huge barrier, because you have these models in CAD, and they're not. If you need to actually overlay in an AR context, for instance, you need a much lower polygon representation for most smart glasses, because they're much lower powered than the CAD workshop that the workstation that the person that designed it is using. And so yeah, I think there's some things emerging for that pipeline, but it is a very labor intensive and probably a very often underlooked or overlooked expense in converting those models to something that can be used in the context of a training simulation or something that they're not. And so I think, yeah, as an industry, I don't know if there's been probably enough focus on taking data that already exists and being able to easily munge it into formats that are, or even pre-produce them along with, the formats as they're being created.
Right, yes,
I
so,
was just going to add one
yeah.
other one that I hadn't mentioned, that
mhm.
very often, these large industries, as a part of deciding to make a purchase, they need very hard and fast requirements. What are the specifications that, if I'm evaluating 6 different potential products, what are the requirements? I think very often, a lot of industries don't even know what their requirements are, or how to ask and how to evaluate one product versus the other. They might say, well, it has to have like a UL safety listing, or it has to be FCC compliance and real basic regulatory. But when it gets into the performance-based of deciding which particular features are going to get the most benefit, I think they have trouble actually understanding what they're even supposed to be asking for, and that becomes another minor obstacle that you run into.
Just a small thing about this, though.
Mhm.
Every disruptive industry or innovation ever has had most of these, if not all of these challenges.
Yes.
Like, people are afraid that the tractor will take their jobs, right, because they're farmers and stuff like that. And so, yeah, there are definitely challenges, and I think the big thing is that we need to see how they were addressed before and how to address them.
Yeah.
Maybe if I may comment to that, there is also a positive movement going on. At least in Europe, we have the Industry 4.0, or the factory of the future, where the whole idea is that companies are going to bring back operations to countries like Europe with a high labor cost, because suddenly performance can go up by giving people smart eyewear, by empowering people with better technology. Exactly. That's one thing. And the second thing is, and of course, the whole thing about 3D printing and the whole aspect of cyber physical systems. All of that plays to the advantage of high-skilled, though high-cost labor countries. And it might bring back things that were outsourced a decade ago. So that's the positive drive for this technology.
Interesting.
Great, thank you. So, Patrick, you were giving us some examples of the software challenges, but I'm sure there are others. Could you let us know what key challenges there are from the software perspective from implementing smart glasses?
Sure. Yeah, I tend to come at this from the individual developer providing solutions level, as opposed to like the solution provider, big enterprise platform, and so from that perspective, it's still, we've made great strides in I'd say even the last two years, the industry has, but we're still learning a lot about what buttons to put on a device, for instance. And as a developer, if you want to, if you're just doing a proof of concept, then maybe you target one device. But then, if you're trying to show what an experience might look like on multiple devices, well, some of them have touchpads, some of them have a touchpad on your temple, some of them have a button up here. So there's those types of issues. I'd say, some of the positives is a lot of the smart glasses do kind of play in the Android ecosystem, so you can leverage a lot of your existing Android knowledge as a developer, and you just kind of can put layers on top of UI. And of course, I know Atheer is working on things like that. Obviously, that's like kind of your whole ball of wax. But I guess some of the other challenges, I suppose, are we're still maturing as an industry, even in terms of UI paradigms. Do you swipe? What are the interactions that are
The click and
natural.
double click.
Yeah, what's the click and double click? Yeah, what's the what's the swipe? What's the double pinch? What's the pinch zoom of AR and smart glasses? Or do you go the meta's trying to go more in the, well, you just use your hands as your hands, and that's what you do. But I would say you ask everyone in this room, they probably have a slightly different opinion because we haven't all seen it and used it on a daily basis. So those are some of the challenges, and then just the standard development challenges of having to target devices that are potentially lower powered than you're used to targeting. So you have to pay very special attention to not doing something that's going to cause the device to overheat. And there's also, when you get beyond the proof of concept level, so you say to somebody, okay, well, this is great. Now, how do I deploy 500 of these? I know how to do that now, finally, with my smartphones. But now you're giving me this other device that my IT department's never seen a.
They're a new kind of mobile device, aren't
right,
they?
it's a new kind of
Easy to
mobile device,
manage.
but they're not managed the same way. They don't have and there are companies, obviously, you'll see them on the show floor that are trying to solve that problem. So yeah, those are some of the things that spring to mind.
I think it's inevitable as the industry matures that you're going to see some consensus form, perhaps around one primary platform, much like we saw with smartphones, and now we all pretty much interact with them with the same types of gestures, no matter what brand you're using or which operating system. They're all working the same way, and I would fully expect to see that with AR devices as well.
And one last thing is Unity does help with a lot of this for being able to, at least for the proof of concept stage, being able to target a whole slew of different devices, including HoloLens, including pretty much all the smart glasses that are out there. So that can be helps jumpstart some development. Go ahead. Sorry, I cut you.
Yeah, I wanted to say it's natural. Actually, if you go to the Computer History Museum, you find these mice that look like a globe where you turn a ball around, and all of these ideas. Yeah, and with phones when they came out, we had all of these sliding stuff, flipping stuff, and then people discover, okay, this is the natural way to interact with this type of paradigm, and yeah, the industry currently is going through that, and the big thing I think is to make it as easy as possible for developers and designers to test and create, so that we can reach the consensus point as quickly as possible, because people don't want to build something and then change the interface and then change the interface as the world under them moves.
Right. Well, you're talking about the user interface and bringing up the mouse. Certainly the mouse is something that we're very familiar with, but it took a while to develop, and it's not only for business, but it's across all consumers. And when we think about widespread adoption, the consumer space might be 10 times as large in terms of adoption potential as for workers and the verticals.
Yeah, good point.
So Ron, I was wondering if you'd have thoughts on that, about what it really takes for consumers to adopt smart glasses, and what are some key design considerations?
Well, I think as Peter very well demonstrated when outlining the use cases in industry, that for industry, adoption is very use case oriented. But I see consumer adoption working differently. I think the form factor is going to have to be there first. There's going to have to be an acceptable form factor that people feel comfortable wearing in public. Now, that said, I think the smart glasses need to be much like a smartphone. We don't walk around with it on our face all day. We pull it out when we're ready to use it, when we need it. And I think smart glasses will be the same way. So they're going to have to be a form factor that we can, I don't know, maybe fold up and put in our pockets or our purse. And so in order to do that, obviously there's going to have to be some significant technological achievements to be able to do that. And ideally, where we'd all like to see it go is to be able to wear a pair of glasses that look like normal eyeglasses and have them indistinguishable from, from prescription-looking glasses. But we're a long way from there, and certainly there's a number of technological achievements that are going to have to happen in order to get there. So until we do, I see, or at least I predict that the smartphones that we already have in our pockets that we're all carrying today, that those are going to be souped up, and those will contain a lot of the added processing power and battery power, etc., that we're going to need to power glasses, so that the glasses can be smaller and lighter weight and have as little of the technology in the glasses themselves to make them more of a acceptable form factor.
Wow, so have, for the consumer market, have a lighter frame, more stylish, maybe well-known glasses brands or sunglasses brands, and then have more of the compute power actually be in the phone.
That's right, and it's perfectly acceptable to us all today. We wear earbuds that have cords that are connected to our phones. So why shouldn't our smart glasses also connect to our phones, where the GPUs, the CPUs, the radio communications? We already have much of that technology in our phones. So it's really not a leap to expect that our glasses will connect to our phones through a cable that runs down the back of our side of our necks or whatever. And I predict that to be the first evolution of acceptable, highly or widespread adopted consumer AR technology.
I think.
Yeah, I was going to add in some of the work, part of this, we had worked with Ron on, we were asking the question to people, what are the top 3 to 5 criteria? What are your buying criteria? And particularly in the consumer space, there was the whole issue of wear comfort always came right up. Size and weight always came up. Battery life. And of course, there's always cost. I mean, that figures in. And it was interesting. Those were actually, to the consumer space, those were more important than security and safety, which did come up, but which were much stronger attributes that were being asked for out of the industrial space. Now, you could also make the argument that if people adopted them more in the industrial space and they get used to using them at work, maybe they're going to be more inclined then to buy them for personal use as well. But yeah, it's very interesting how, through a number of sessions that we had done, that we kept getting very consistent answers around that small subset of criteria that were important.
If I can add to that, I'm all in for the idea of run for another reason. It's the reason of safety, concern, and perception. Imagine we would stick a phone to our glass and walk around for a day long with a phone near our temple. I think some of us might get concerned, because some of us don't like to hold up their phone for more than 10 minutes talking to other people. So bringing it to the idea you suggest, it would maybe be also a lot more comfortable to have that radiation in your pocket and only have a light glass on your nose. It would at least make me feel more comfortable wearing it.
I think it's interesting, like this whole question of where the processing and the battery is going to go. I mean, I think if anyone had caught Ralph Fosterhout's keynote yesterday, I mean, they're going the complete opposite way. So what's going to be fun as an industry is we're going to have hope. I mean, if they actually are out in January like they say, we're going to have basically the opposite of what you just said, which is everything's going to be on your head. Now, how much smarts will be in it, and how what you can actually do, we'll still see. But it'll be interesting to see how well that product does, and if other products come that are more in the like the Apple, the big elephant in the room, or whatever. If they eventually came out with a smart glass, it would, like you said, Brian, I do agree, it would probably be around the iPhone. It would be play in that ecosystem. So I think the next year will be really exciting, because we'll have some actual tests of the marketplace, and then the users will vote with their dollars, and we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we definitely believe in your vision almost exactly, and we believe that the first use case will be like replacing a laptop or something like that, where people pull out the glasses when they need them. And the way we're going right now is that we use a USB 3 to connect our glasses to the processing unit. And the reason we do that is that the next step is to connect it through USB 3 to a number of standard phones, where you can make the glasses as light as possible and small as possible and just take advantage of the phone. I mean, you already have a processor and a Wi-Fi hub, everything already there. Why not use them?
Exactly. And why carry another device around in your pocket that has all that?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think this in particular, I think that the barrier, the challenge isn't the technology. I think that would be ready very, very soon. But on top of that, there's the stuff that you mentioned. Part of it is just familiarity. To get the consumers to adopt it, to cross the chasm, you need people to have seen it enough to feel comfortable with it enough. And we just need to give it kind of enough time. And the other is like the right branding and marketing, where it sometimes, at some point, it will just click for the market that, okay, I mean, people used to, cell phones had that problem, right? I mean, both the size and the bulkiness, and also the perception, like who's going to carry that thing around and whatever. And then at some point, no, this is actually cool, and this is what I want to be.
And then pocket PC after that. I mean, having a pocket PC phone, like, why do you have a keyboard on your flip phone? I mean, it's weird, you know. Like,
Yeah.
It took a while for that to be.
And then things pick up. And so the technology will be there, we believe, very soon for the consumer. But estimating when the market will really pick up, I think that the technology isn't the biggest barrier. In the next couple of years, that will be solved. Maybe in the couple of years after that, the world would have, at least in certain countries, would have seen these things enough, possibly because of the enterprise and all of the efforts that are going here, that they will decide, okay, this is something we're comfortable with.
So I think that brings us back to consumer use cases, because once the hardware is there, then it's going to take the killer application for mass adoption. And I don't think we know what that is yet. I don't think we do. You know, there's it's something. It'll be something. It'll be something disruptive and something maybe that nobody sees coming. And I look forward to seeing what that'll be.
Like I mentioned, we think that if you can have your laptop in a small pair of glasses, that when you need it, you pick them up, connect them to your phone, and you have the large screen and everything that you do, instead of like, it's a 2-ounce laptop, right? 23-inch. So that seems a bit interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for your insights. I want to give the audience an opportunity to ask questions. We have 2 or 3 minutes left. If you raise your hand, I'll come out with a microphone.
Now I know what the percentage
I talk too much.
No, you did fine.
Can you pass it down to him, please? Thank you.
Just curious if you'd had any experience doing mass rollouts, like in factories, what the user adoption and what their reactions have been. You know, all of us love putting on headsets and VR headsets and playing with those, but what have the reactions been?
We did a test. I can be open about it. It was with Scania, and it was with 50 people, ranging from 20 till 60. None of them had ever touched or used the Google Glass. And it was really quite amazing because we did not do the survey. The company itself did the survey very openly with all of the workers, and independent of the age, they welcomed the device and the added value. So that was I had thought there was going to be much more resistance, but they had a score, and the average of the score was 8.5 on a score of 10, where 10 was the maximum. And to be honest, that was maybe 2 points more than I ever expected them to rate it. Even with all the inconveniences, like you say, heating and so on, with that we're all familiar with, But people can see through those limitations and see the added value. So.
One last question?
One of the things that I've run into is trying to get input into the glasses. What is the trend that you guys are seeing? I mean, we've seen a lot of presentations about, you know, eye tracking and hand tracking and voice, and what are you seeing is the trend, and what's working for people the best?
I mean, I don't know if I can speak to trends. I know that, I mean, for me personally, the first thing I always do when I get any kind of smart glasses, I pick up a thumb board, like, because if there's any kind of amount of text entry, I just find I cannot do it with any of the I mean, I guess the closest is HoloLens has gotten okay with this, like, look and tap, but even that's very uncomfortable. So, I mean, I think some form of if the use case supports it. I mean, for picking, you might never have to input a single thing, but for your laptop of the future, I mean, we're going to have, you know, peripherals that let you type, and that's at least that's what people, and voice. I guess voice is also most smartphones do support voice, but again, if you're in a loud environment or a crowded environment, you know, if I'm sitting in that seat over there taking notes on this presentation, and I'm saying, well, Patrick just said that, you know, if you're taking notes at a presentation, you shouldn't say it really loudly around, you know, it's going to be awkward. So,
yeah, I think that that a successful device will be one that has multiple options, because, like you said, it's not always appropriate to use voice control. It's also not always appropriate to be gesturing wildly in certain social situations. So, you know, I think the optimal configuration will have eye tracking as well as voice and gesture.
And I think in addition to that, the touchpad is something that is, I would say, that you see appear on multiple devices and seems to work. The other thing is, it's going to be, according to us, a mix of devices. So your phone to type in something, we use ring scanners. We combine ring scanners with glasses, because even if the camera would be suited to scan, your head is not a scanner. So you would get neck pain after an hour of working that way. The hand is much more suited to scan and reach out towards an object. So we use the watch in combination with a glass to confirm. It's really in the mix of things, both the controls on the glass and the complementary hardware with the glass, that the right solutions can be found.
And if everyone could please everyone just go out and get a HoloLens and sit in a restaurant and wave, so it'll be more social acceptable for me to do so, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your insights with us. And let's give them a round of applause.